Welcome to A Canadian Investing in the U.S., a podcast and YouTube channel focused on Canadians buying real estate with host Glenn Sutherland.
Welcome to another episode of Canadian Investing in the U.S. This week, my guest is Martin and Lyne. Martin, let's start by giving everybody a bit of an intro to yourself, maybe some of your background, maybe some of your story, and then we'll jump into it.
Absolutely. So Lynn and I, we have completely different stories, but obviously, we came together as one. So Lynn, I would like you to share your side of the story too, if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Lynn. I'm the other half of the Martin and Lynn situation. My story is pretty simple, I would say. I grew up with a dad that was a flipper, so I learned a lot from him. Mostly on the construction and the renovation side. Wasn't really into the number when I was 13. It wasn't my thing at first.
Yeah.
But then growing up, I always knew I wanted to do my own thing. I've never really liked the whole employee thing, so I always knew I wanted to do something, and real estate was always on my radar. I saw how well it worked for my dad, and that's something I wanted to do as well. So when I moved to New Brunswick for school, I realized the potential that we have in the city. I realized that I saw the numbers, I saw the cash flow potential. The rents are pretty similar than what we have in Montreal, but the price is a fraction of what you would buy it for in Montreal and Ontario. So it made a lot of sense for me in terms of cash flow. And it's also a growing city that with a lot of economical and social drivers. So that's kind of what struck the beginning of everything. And then we got into wholesaling, and then we got into buying more properties, short-term, long-term rentals. And now we're eventually growing and looking into commercial and industrial. So that's kind of my story.
Did you start like straight into New Brunswick, or were you doing some stuff locally first?
I started straight from New Brunswick. I knew how expensive Montreal was, so I knew I didn't want to start there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Moncton was more affordable, and it also made a lot more sense number-wise. I wanted to make sure we had cash flow, and that was important for us. So we started right after in Moncton, New Brunswick.
So for me, my first property ever, it was actually in Montreal, right? So ever since I started working full time, I was working in marketing before. I leveraged my borrowing power to buy, a rundown duplex in Montreal in a place called Villemard. And for it to cash flow, I literally had to rent out room per room. And that actually wasn't even enough because I had to convert the 2 living rooms into additional bedrooms. Because if you ever been to Montreal or live in Montreal, the rents are quite affordable. That's what Montreal is known for. It's great for students to live there, or for people to live there because it's super affordable. On the other side of the spectrum, as landlords, that means it's quite difficult for your property to cash flow. So I was able to do that. I learned a lot by renovating it. Since 2019, every single summer, I was trying to find contractors to help me do the work as cheaply as possible. Made so many mistakes along the way. So when Lynn moved to Moncton, she was looking for a rental apartment. I was pretty mad when I saw the prices. I was like, what do you mean you can, rent a 2-bedroom in Moncton? You were going to pay $1,200? That's how much I can get from my Montreal property, but I paid like 4 times that price. So that's when the wheels started turning for us, right? That's why we just went all in on New Brunswick. And to be honest, we were already a little late. We fully got into it around October of 2020. And that's when, there were bidding wars going on. Because if you're talking to any real estate agents, from years before, they'll tell you, like you just list the property on the market and list it for at least 6 or 8 months, and hopefully someone will bite. So definitely different markets now. Yeah.
That's awesome. And so you kind of touched on Moncton there, but why Moncton? Because there is even if you go, hey, I want New Brunswick because they're more landlord friendly, right? So I know a lot of people just will put the pin in New Brunswick, but there's a lot of big cities. Like my mother's side is from New Brunswick, so I know New Brunswick. I've been to like every city there. So like Fredericton, Moncton, St. John's, Bathurst, tons of them, like Newcastle, all in the middle. Why Moncton?
So when we were looking, we did some research about Moncton, and at the time we're looking at economical, social, population, etc. And a lot of it made a lot of sense, to be honest. So one, we have multiple universities and schools here in Moncton. So we have Crandall University, which is the Anglophone university. We have University of Moncton, which is the biggest Francophone university east of Quebec. That's the second one that we have. We have the community college, the NBCC, multiple trade schools, and more specialized schools as well. So a lot of people around New Brunswick are merging onto Moncton for that reason. So a lot of students are coming there, and that means, you know, increasing demand for apartments, and then people need housing, etc. So that's one of it. When COVID happened, also a lot of people realized that their money can go a long way if they move to a smaller city, or if they move on the East Coast. And there's that East Coast lifestyle that people kind of look forward to have. So big house in front of the water, a lot of land for the kids and the dogs to run around and have fun. Yeah. So a lot of people left their shoebox apartment in Montreal and Ontario, especially Toronto, to come to Moncton to have more space and just more flexibility for their family. So that was the second one. And then we saw also that it was the 7th fastest growing city in terms of population at the time. And a lot of economical drivers. Martin can touch on that too.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, you know, what kind of jobs we have, you know, you're looking at industrial workers that will be here. You might say, okay, Saint John, there's a lot of industrial workers, but what's Moncton really unique for? It's also, you know, where all the call centers are. So TD, Tangerine, Blue Cross, all of their these corporates that have their call centers agents, you know, placed right here in Moncton, New Brunswick. They also call it the hub city, right? So if you look at it on the map, if you literally put it on Google Maps, it's central to the rest of Atlantic provinces. So when people come to the Maritimes just for traveling, for pleasure, they treat Moncton almost as a home base, right? And that's where, you know, you drive 2.5 hours, you get to Halifax, get to Cape Breton, you go to PEI. So it's quite central geographically as well, which makes it, you know, a really interesting city for people to consider moving here to.
Yeah. And I haven't done my economic drivers. Sorry about that. I haven't done my economic drivers on there, but for me, when I go to Moncton or Fredericton, they're like the most polished cities of New Brunswick. They're the nicest to walk around in. That's what I found. Sorry, I cut you off there.
No worries. Absolutely. And the thing with Moncton is it's 35 minutes away from the ocean. So you can go to beaches, you can go enjoy Parley Beach, you can go to Shediac and enjoy lobster. You're very close to Halifax, as Martin said, very close to PI, very close to Fredericton, to Quebec, to Ontario. So you're very central, which makes a lot of companies, especially when companies are very heavy into shipping, very heavy into sending out trucks into different locations, they're looking into Moncton as a central spot to be in because they have access at an hour and a half, 2 hours away from all these points, especially in the Maritime. So it gives them that flexibility. And it's also cheaper for them to rent warehouses, to buy the land, to do all of that in here in Moncton. So that's also been something that's attracting a lot of companies. There was a few headlines about that actually in the news about companies moving from Toronto all the way to Moncton. It seems to make a lot of sense for the companies, and the city and the province are investing a lot of money into bringing more people into the province. We have workation programs inviting people to come work from home here in New Brunswick. We have lots of tourism as well. And it's also easier for immigrants to access and to come into New Brunswick than to go to Quebec or Ontario. So it's lots of things are put in place to attract people to come, which is what makes it the 7th fastest growing city in Canada.
Awesome. I don't know if you've had to deal with this side of it, but what's it like doing evictions there? Is it what kind of timeline, what kind of pain, what kind of goodness, how does that kind of go? I don't know if you went down that path.
When I started investing in the US, I did it by myself and had to go through the growing pains of doing that. GlennSutherland.com/coaching. A 12-week coaching program done 1 hour per week over Zoom from the comfort of your own home. Classes are kept to 5 people to be able to answer everyone's questions. Shortcut the process. Make fewer mistakes. Curriculum available at GlennSutherland.com/coaching.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, it's part of everybody's real estate journey.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
It's definitely, the rules here are definitely more landlord friendly than they would be in Ontario and Quebec. The timeline is around a month and a half, 2 months, depending on the situation. So
Yeah, we
yeah, there's systems in place, especially if they're not paying your rent, to do with evictions.
Yeah, we always try to work with the tenants as much as possible, right? So it's almost like a unit improvement program, right? So we always try to renovate the property, working with them while they're still living there because it's still their home. Yeah. And a lot of the properties that we purchase, again, so we're mostly dealing with off-market properties, right? So the seller, the property owner, the previous property owner is usually in a distress situation. So we've dealt with properties where the tenants are like, yeah, the previous landlord never did anything to the property. We'll try to call him for repairs and they just wouldn't do it. I still want to live here. I'm so happy, you guys are able to come help. And we're just talking about this earlier today, Lynn. If you want to share, that story from St. John, I think that was a really interesting case study.
Yeah, so what we did at the beginning is we did not want to evict anybody. We tried to work with the current tenants as much as possible, and we would let them know, hey, we're going to be doing extensive renovations to your unit, a lot of renovations to the building in general. So it's going to be an improved living space for you. But it does come with a rent increase if you're comfortable with it. If you're able to afford it, we'd love to keep you as a tenant. So that's kind of how we started the conversation with them. We'll conduct the renovations while they're in the units. So we've done that with one of our units in New Brunswick, in St. John, sorry. It was a 3-plex. One of those units, it was a young couple living in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. So we started with renovating one of their bathroom. And then once that one was finished, we did the next one to make sure they're still comfortable in it. Yeah. We did change the floorings, we painted the entire unit, we redid the entire kitchen. So we did a full reno and offered them a way better unit. At first, they were like, my rent is $700. You want to bring it to $1,200? Are you out of your mind? This unit is not worth it. This is crazy. I'm going to fight this. We're like, fine, let us do the reno. You'll see what we're talking about. And then if it's not worth it, then we're not going to keep you. You can do whatever you want and decide from there. We did the renovations, and then he sent us a long email. And it started like, hi there, I know we started on the wrong foot. I hope you know that I'm not a negative person. I'm not looking for trouble either, but I just wanted to let you know, I really love the renovations you've done. You have amazing taste. This is so great. The previous landlords just didn't do anything. I'm so glad you guys are improving this unit. I think it's well worth that $1,200 that I'm paying, and I'm very happy. Thank you so much. And it just feels so good. It just feels so good to be able to do that. And we've tried to do that with as many tenants as possible. It worked in some cases, didn't work in others. But it just feels so good when they realize that we're trying to add value to them as well. It does come at our price, and that's really just because it cost us a lot to do those renovations, but it worked out at the end, and he's very happy. We're very happy, and yeah, that's it's working out.
Win-win, love it.
Exactly,
you just mentioned
win-win for
big
everybody.
Rent raise. Like, is there a cap on rent raises in New Brunswick?
Yeah, so they recently introduced that. So because of the climate before, right? Unfortunately, a lot of property owners were taking advantage of it. They would essentially acquire a building without doing any renovations, so double the rent because they had the right to do so. It was truly the Wild Wild West, right? And obviously that wasn't sustainable. That wasn't, something was about to happen. So Service New Brunswick recently introduced, the new regulations, capping the rent increase at 3.8% year over year, at least for the remainder of 2022. That's what they're planning to do. There's no news in regard to what they're planning to do in 2023 yet. But that's one way the government is trying to protect the tenants' interests as well. Now, however, you can still do renovations, right, as they call it. There are definitely properties where that are really not in livable conditions, and that's where renovation will come into effect. You essentially serve the notice, letting them know that you need to do renovation.
That was one of our worries too, because the properties we purchase are in a very bad shape usually. It usually needs brand new electricals, a lot of plumbing, and redoing kind of everything. So our worry was that if we do buy a property like that, we don't want to keep it in that state. We do want to renovate it. And as much as we want to work with the tenants, if it doesn't work out, we still want to have the option to do the renovation. So renovation is one of it. We try not to do it. We try to, work with them as much as possible. But when it comes to it, we end up having to do that. And I think we touched on it earlier too. The eviction timeline is usually about 1.5 to 2 months. And then the sheriff can help get involved if that isn't done.
Interesting. I like it. And it's compared to Ontario, it's a much better rent raise amount.
Yes.
not to probe like too deep into this, but you raised it higher than 3.8. Did you switch them from one unit to the other in order to make that work, or how? There's got to be a trick to this.
So that was before.
Oh, it was before.
That was before the rent cap. The rent cap was introduced very recently. It was in March, I believe. It was in March, but it was retroactive to January 1st.
Okay.
So luckily, we did most of our rent increases before that.
Good. Smart.
When it comes to the new ones, we'll have to increase it to 3.8. If we have to do renovations, it's usually a renovation. But we do have also a 4-unit, for example, right now that we're renovating every unit. And we had one empty at possession. So we renovated that one. We proposed the tenants to move into that one if they wanted to. Yeah. And that was a new rent, new lease. And then, we'll do that with the others and try to move it around.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Pivoting slightly from New Brunswick, what about your business and kind of how it's working? Just because I've had brief discussions with you guys, I know that you're not buying on market deals. Maybe a little bit about how you actually acquire these properties, find these properties. And what you even have as offers for other people.
That's right. Thanks for asking that. So when we first started, right, we only knew to work with a real estate agent at a time, and thankfully it was a pretty hot market. So that's what pushed us to think creatively, and also to think, hey, there must be a better way. So we got the education that we needed. We write books. We also watch a bunch of YouTube videos on finding these deals, right, and creating win-win situations. So since then, what we created in our local communities is essentially a pawn shop for real estate. So it's quite a new concept here, just wholesaling in general, right? Like people don't really know what that is. So that served us both there are advantages and disadvantages with it. But what we were doing, we essentially created a marketing machine. Right now, at any given time, we have around 7 different channels of marketing, right? So we have offline, online, traditional media, and also out-of-home advertising as well. So we're looking at, billboards. We have billboards of different sizes. We have TV commercial. We obviously do direct mail. We also do essentially neighborhood mail as well. And we also do pay-per-click, the Carrot website, all of that, targeting different keywords. We have signs at dog parks, we have signs at community parks, all of that, right? And the messaging is always, we buy, houses as is, no matter what your condition is, no matter what your situation is. And we're looking to improve, New Brunswick communities one house at a time. So that's always been our core message, our core value. So our business is really surrounding around finding deals. So when we first started, we just started kind of wholesaling everything because we're like, okay, we needed some fast cash, right? And then we realized, why are we just giving these deals away? And one of the partners that was in my night work, he was making a killing from investing in Windsor, Ontario, a couple of years back. He was like, hey, Martin and Lynn, I love all these deals that you guys are bringing us, but I'm not gonna pay you a wholesale fee for any of it. I want I want to buy these with you. So that's kind of opened up our doors to JV partnerships. So with this particular partner, we acquired quite a few properties with them. But we've also reached out to our own personal connections, right? So Lynn's connections, my own personal connections. Most of my friends they're in their late 20s. They're working, mid-manager positions in Montreal, in Toronto. They're having a hard time qualifying for residential real estate, but they still want to get into the game. They see what we're doing, and they're became money partners for our deals, which works out really well for them because every single deal that we've done so far, it's a full BRRRR, right? So they're able to get their initial investment back. We're able to split the profit, split the equity, split the cash flow, and they have no money tied into the deal. So it's that's kind of been our journey so far. Right now, it's all about finding a balance between what to wholesale, what kind of properties we want to keep, what kind of properties we want to BRRRR, what kind of properties we want to flip ourselves. We've also grown our wholesaling company to more than just us too, right? Like we've hired acquisition manager, disposition managers, and our goal for them is really, have them be entrepreneurs within our organization as well, right? So they're taking full ownership. We're trying to make sure everyone is able to hit, 7-figure revenue for each one of them. So that's, the wholesaling part of our business and what we've done with the leads that we've gathered.
So as a machine, it really works this way. We have a marketing person that's sending out the marketing that's really putting the brand out there and getting people's attention. And we have the acquisition rep that's taking the calls, talking to the people, getting properties under contract. We have the disposition person that's basically doing the wholesaling part, so talking to investors and assigning properties. And then we have basically either the assignee that's purchasing the property, we have lawyers in place, obviously, and people helping us on that end. But we also, if we buy it ourselves, we have companies that will buy the property. Now, after that part is done, we also have a construction company that we can use to do our own flips, our own burrs, but we also use sometimes to flip and burr our assignees' properties. And then we have also realtor contacts to sell it if somebody wants to sell their flip. It's a full circle at the end. We kind of try to take on part of most of it. And we also have property managers obviously working with us that we can refer if needed. So we kind of take on the entire spectrum of the investment part and try to help our assignees as much as possible on that end.
I love it. To go back to what Martin said a couple minutes ago, you said just in passing that you had people that were having trouble personally qualifying for these loans. But to elaborate on that, what do you mean? Like, so you solved the problem by someone else personally qualifying, or you went into commercial loans?
Right. Yeah. So it's another great question. So what I meant was, first of all, we are the ones having trouble qualifying for these loans, first of all, most of the time, right? Because like, we quit our full-time jobs. So we need a money partner. But sometimes, when, for example, one of my friends, he wants to get into real estate. He doesn't have enough money for down payment. Definitely not in Montreal or Toronto. And he was having a hard time even in New Brunswick from the deals I'm presenting to him. Yeah. So we essentially, he had another friend that was interested. So all four of us, right, all came together, me, Lyne, and the two friends. Yep. And they were, fronting the down payment and the renovation. We had a pretty small renovation budget, but, the most important part for us was getting that deal at the right price, right? So it's all about how much budget you have, what are you planning to do with it? Are you looking to just invest passively, or do you want to, take on the risk of owning this property with us as well, right? So if they're saying, hey, I just want, a fixed return on my money, I don't really want to deal with this, it's usually a private lender route. But if they actually want to enjoy the benefit of doing a BRRRR, we usually have them on as a partner. Their names are on the title as well, along with ours. And we make sure that, we're obviously extremely careful with the kind of properties we purchase, right? Yep. We make sure we're getting it at the right price with the right amount of discount, so that there's enough room, enough playroom for us to essentially mess up, but still be able to get them their entire money back, right? Because they're relying on this. They understand the BRRRR model after we explain it to them. So they almost always expect a full BRRRR. So we're like, okay, we're going to try our best to make it happen, right? So, but so far, thankfully.
So far, we've been lucky enough. Yeah, everything has been
the market. The market has been great. The renovations, we're really sticking to the budget, right? Unless there's something that goes wrong. I think there's, 2 or 3 properties like where we opened up the walls and we're like, whoa, what is this? We have to fix this. So definitely
everyone sees those.
It happens, right? Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So it's basically happens. Just your regular active passive partnership, where they would qualify bringing the money and we'll do all the active work on our own. So that's the plan here.
I love it. And for people listening, they're going, Glenn, did you just do a podcast on New Brunswick? And yes, because like, what people like, the name of the show, they might think I'm like against investing in Canada. No, that's I used to do all Ontario, but Ontario got difficult, just like you mentioned. Montreal got difficult, and it's about making it work and setting up systems wherever. Like, that's why we did episodes on Costa Rica and, Belize and all over the place. You can do this stuff anywhere. And I'm not against investing in Canada, and who knows what my future holds. But it's really about being professional, which you guys obviously are, right? And building a system and a team. And it's, I love it. I love this. And, I haven't been out to New Brunswick in a couple of years, but I love going out to New Brunswick. With COVID, I haven't really been anywhere except for Cape Coral a couple of times.
We'll work on that. We'll work on getting you back here.
Yeah. Awesome. Before I let you guys go, you guys want to provide some contact information or anything about your company if we wanted to track you down?
Yeah, so we really believe in sending information out there and sharing as much knowledge as possible with people. So we do have a YouTube channel. It's called Mainly Property Solutions. So you can find that on YouTube. If you want to sign up to our buyers list, we have a website, New Brunswick Property Deals. We also have Mainly Property Solutions. That's out there as well. If you want to find us on Instagram, my handle is Lynn Saighi, Saighi, and Martin's handle is It's Martin May. And for those who want to go the extra step into learning more into New Brunswick, we have a mastermind set up for August 19. So if you're looking into just attending a mastermind, meeting a power team, and meeting other people who are looking into the market, who are buying into the market, it's New Brunswick Mastermind, Real Estate Investing Mastermind. You can find the website online or on our social media as well.
That's right. Yeah, no, Glenn, and just want to thank you for having this platform, right? Like Lynn knows how much time I spend just listening to your podcast. I think you have really interesting guests on, right? Like talking about investing in the States, investing, essentially just investing creatively and making the numbers work, right? It's like you can't find a deal, you have to create a deal, right? So I absolutely appreciate, what you're doing and the platform that you created here. I'm getting a lot of value from it. So it's definitely been fun for us to be on this for sure.
Thank you so much. I do appreciate that. I it is a lot of work too. So it's one of those things I love when I hear that, it makes me feel good, right? It makes me keep going, right? But thank you. I do appreciate that. All right. Well, thanks for coming on the show, guys. I really appreciate your time.
Of course. Thank you so much for having us.